Hey everybody, welcome to Hammer Bros Gaming. I am Blades of God, and with me as always I have Pyro Sitterwatts and Mr. Beardsley. Today we're going to be showing you how to get through the Gears 5 escape mode map, Lethal Engagements on Master Difficulty. For the classes we're going to be bringing in, I'm going to be running Nomad. That's the perspective you're going to be seeing. The Nomad specializes in increasing the marks of damage, which you get early on. You also get a damage boost for being far away and for being above your enemies, and those damage boosts all stack. Pyro Sitterwatts is running the Infiltrator, using that shotgun to get bleed damage, have his invisibility ultimate, and be able to pull off headshots with the shotgun. And Beardsley is running the Robotics Expert, which we will get into in just a minute after we go over what these modifiers are. So for the Lethal Engagements map, we have Lethal Enemies, which means enemies deal increased damage. Heads Up, enemies take much less damage from non-headshots. They have more health. Vampiric Enemies mean they gain health as they damage you and your teammates. Ultra Stopping Power mean enemy bullets have additional stopping power. Faster Venom, and Shock Rifle Drones, which means attacks from rifle drones deal a shock chain to you and your allies. As I said, Beardsley's going to be running the Robotics Expert. This is for a few things. He has the... We don't get M-Bars, but he does have the Bloody Support card, which means when his DR1 ultimate is ready, he'll deal bleeding damage. Also, his DR1 works as a great distraction so we can run past groups of enemies. And that's another reason that I brought the Nomad into this map. The Nomad's fear ability frightens and causes enemies to flee, which gives us the chance to sneak by some groups of enemies. Alright, so let's get into the map itself. Right off the bat, you're going to come out of the spawn room, and normally you'll have these two enemies that are facing away from you. Walk up slowly. You can see I have my sidearm aiming, and that makes you walk slow enough that you're not going to alert the enemies. And you can see right here, I already got my marks, so we're in good shape. There's a few ammo pouches in this little corner room, so go ahead and grab those. We're not actually going to be using our weapons for this first part if we can help it. We're going to be trying to get executions on all these enemies. You can see there that Beardsley on the left, he picked up a long shot already. So Beardsley and I are going to be focusing mostly on our distance weapons. Pyro running the Infiltrator, he's trying to get a shotgun. And again, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you say that you're doing a sniper-based or headshot-based class to bring somebody who specializes in shotguns, but you're going to see that Pyro is quite effective at pulling off those headshots using a Nasher or an Overkill. So here we go. This is the second group of enemies that we approached. You could see that we were able to get the drop on most of them. One of them did get alerted and ran off, but not a big deal. We took them down just using our melees and our executions. And once you get past the second group of enemies, you're going to want to hit up this ammo room. Now, what we could have done here is had me or Beardsley hold on to both the Markset and the long shot to pick up ammo and max out the ammo from the boxes. But we didn't do that. We just kind of divvied up the ammo between us, so we would all have shots. You can see that Pyro did pick up a Marksa just so he could do a little bit of support from a distance. But again, he's going to be focusing primarily on using that Nasher. So after the ammo room, you're going to come around this corner and you're going to have another group of unaware enemies. This one you can also take out using only executions. And you can see I'm marking the enemies that we need to take out first. There's 3 of them in the back here, which is great because there's you and 2 allies, so you guys can all execute 1 each. And that should mean those last 2 enemies on the right will not become aware of your presence. Instead of pushing B to execute, you can push X. That'll allow you to take them as a meat shield, and it's a lot quicker than going through the entire animation of doing an execution. You can see here that we actually did get noticed by those 2 remaining enemies over by the door, and because of that shock chain, Beardsley tried to come pick me up and he got downed, so we crawled over to Pyro, and he got me up. I went over and got Beardsley up. This is not a very clean run of this section, but again, this is a difficult map. You know, the enemies deal more damage. That shock chain is a real hassle, so you've got to be patient. And the faster Venom is one of the biggest issues here because it really does sneak up on you quite quickly. You can see the Lethal Venom is already almost on top of us because the Lethal Venom does not go all the way around like we did. It cuts through and it really catches up to you very quickly. So once you clear out those enemies in that stealth section, you can see I come out onto the bridge here and I start sniping again because that Nomad class has a skill card that actually allows you to do increased damage when you're 10 meters above or 10 meters away from an enemy. So this means I'm getting an additional 60% damage per Marksa shot, And in addition, for each consecutive critical hit, you get an additional there's a skill that gives you an additional 15% damage up to 200%. So in theory, you could be doing an additional 260% damage with the marks in this map. So you can see I did a little bit of work there using the higher elevation to try to thin out these enemies. Pyro came down here. He posted up on this doorway that all the enemies tend to come through, and he was doing really a great job at slowing them down and pulling off those headshots where he could. But again, we're pushing up. Ideally, you would have gotten to this spot a little bit faster, so you could have spent more time on the high ground taking out some of these enemies, but the Venom pushed us faster than we had wanted. So I'm going to grab a long shot from one of the snipers, and we're pushing up at this point. You're going to come to this big slide, and what you want to do is stay at the top of this hill, the slide if you can, and try to pull off some shots on the enemies down below here. You definitely get the damage bonus again, but you can see I'm just not doing great with pulling off headshots. So if you want to, stay up here, take some headshots, try to thin out the numbers, because that bridge that you see in the distance, that's going to be the next place that we hold, and there's going to be a lot of enemies. Something to take note of is that you absolutely could run the Marksman class, and I know a lot of people do like to run the Marksman class in this map because it's almost custom designed for this type of map where you have to pull off headshots. But again, the reason we ran these classes is because the Nomad has the Fear ability, the Robotics Expert has that DR1 that works as an excellent distraction, and that's what we're going to be focusing on, is actually trying to run past some of our opponents, especially in the second half of the map. So here we go. We're on the bridge. You can see all three of us are up here. We're going to do a little bit of work. Beardsley has his long shot out, and he's going to town with that, taking out some enemies. Pyro actually moved up to the next area in an attempt to stop any of the Grenadiers that get by from coming up and getting a drop on us. So that's not a bad plan either. And one of the things that we could have done better right here is actually spread ourselves out a little bit more. You could see just a moment ago, Beardsley and I both got hit by that shock chain. So you need to make sure you keep your distance from one another. So at this point, we've done as much as we can. The Venom, the deadly Venom, is right on top of us. We have to move. And you can see that we're picking up flashbangs as we go. You want to make sure that you have flashbangs or shock grenades, because you're going to need those, again, to stun and slow down some enemies to run by them. So you can see we are definitely in the deadly Venom at this point, so we are just playing catch-up, trying to get to a safe spot. And we're already at the last fight before the safe room, the midway point. You're going to have to be careful here. There's a lot of enemies. There's a couple of Scions. And there's a lot of Sires. I think there's 2 or 3 Sires right here. You can see Pyro's doing a great job trying to get the bleed damage going on them. And it's just one of those things that Sires can really slow you down. It's tough to pull off headshots on them. Their heads aren't in the normal spot. Unfortunately, you can see Beardsley ended up getting downed right there, but he was in the Venom, the deadly Venom, so that ended up killing him. So it's just Pyro and I at this point. And here we are, we're right before the safe room. You see I activate my fear. It kind of stuns and confuses a lot of the enemies. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite close enough to get that last guy, but we made it into the safe room. Ideally, what I would have liked to have done there is actually had Pyro take out the sniper that was right on top of us and then run ahead and end up using fear a little bit more in the middle of the room to make sure I had all of those enemies in fear. Alright, so here we go. We're into the second half of the map. This is after the safe room. We did skip the safe room just because there's nothing special about it. We just divvy up any ammo or grenades, weapons that are in there. We did get Beardsley a couple of weapons so he'd be able to be back in the fight. He had his Boltok. I believe he starts with a Boltok as the Robotics Expert class. And that's what he was working with. You can see there an M-Bar just decided to drop my meat shield and me. And Beardsley and I are both down. But when you get to this part, so the very start of the second act of this map, you're going to have quite a few drones, whether they're sniper or grenadier variants, but you're also going to have sort of a boss enemy here, and it's either going to be a Stump or a Scion. Now, it doesn't really matter if you're running this setup which one you get. If it's running the Scion, then you've got 2 marksman classes in the Robotics Expert and the Nomad that can pull off headshots and take him down. And then if it's the Stump, you can absolutely see that we're going to have Pyro run up and shotgun him to death very quickly, because even though there's no head, so to speak, on a DR1, it does have weak points. So Pyro's just going to get that bleed damage going, and you're going to see we're just going to lay into this this Stump and take him out very quickly. So once you take him out, you can see right behind that Stump there is a ammo room, and you're going to want to hit that up, especially if you're in a situation like we are where one of your guys just, he wiped before the safe room so he doesn't have his weapons. It'll be a great way to get him a weapon, get him some ammo, and you can see he did pick up a M-bar. I was mistaken at the beginning of the video. We do get M-bars in the second half of the map, and I actually dropped my long shot to pick up an M-bar because the ammo is going to be more plentiful. So we come in here, we load up on our ammo, make sure that everybody's topped off, and then we're going to continue to advance. Believe it or not, we're actually not that far from the end of the map already, so we've only got a couple of encounters left to go. Beardsley, because he's running that robotics expert, he gets a additional damage boost on all DB weapons, and that includes the tri-shot, and he's going to grab that tri-shot and use it to clean up some of these opponents in this room. In this room, one of the things you need to do is if you look at the mini-map, you can see that it's a square, but there's two paths that go around to where you come in. So you want to have somebody go to the right, which we had Beardsley go to the right side, Pyro went to the left side, and I'm sort of sitting in this middle area to offer support to both sides, because if you don't, the enemies will flank you, and they very easily can get the drop on you here. So looking at that big door right where that claw drone is, that's where a lot of the enemies are going to be stationed. And if you spread your guys out, or if you spread your team out a little bit to split the fire from the enemies, then you're going to have a much easier time of it than if you just group up, because there's going to be a lot of firepower coming at you, and you're not going to have the good angles that you need in order to get the headshots and really clean those enemies up in a timely fashion. Now you can see we're actually in pretty good shape Venom-wise, so we came down here to hit this ammo room. It's not strictly necessary, but having more ammo is never a bad thing. So we came down here to load up on additional ammunition, grenades, anything else that we would need that's in here. Again, it's not strictly necessary that you hit this room if you're not setting as good of a pace as we are, but it is nice to do. So if you can, make sure you come down to this little lower portion and raid that ammo room. And then we're heading on. You can see the deadly venom is just starting to get to us, so we're in pretty good shape. We're going to come through this doorway, and we're already to the final room before the exit. Now, this is where having the fear ability and the robotics experts DR1 is definitely going to come into play. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of post up on the right side here. We're going to thin out as many enemies as we can and sort of wait until the venom gets closer. You can see that there's a lot of snipers in this spot, so you've got to do very quick pop shots, time your shots in between when they're shooting at you. And the idea is that you want to draw as many enemies as you can over to the right side of this map. You know, stay here as long as you can, get as many enemies to get over on this side of the map as you can, and until you feel that either the venom is pushing you too hard or that the enemies are pushing you too hard, stay right there. We decided that there was enough enemies moved over to the right that we were going to try this, and what you want to do is have your Nomad run all the way up here, activate fear, and that's going to cause a lot of these enemies to flee. Unfortunately, they're all fleeing towards the exit, which isn't great, but we're going to have Beardsley run up, and he's going to activate his DR1 to act as an additional distraction. We make it all the way out to the door and activate the door hold, or the door lever to close the door. You see Pyro got Beardsley got a good execution there, and as I said, we made it all the way up. Beardsley, we're going to use the flash grenades and whatever else we have to slow down enemies from getting out. Beardsley unfortunately got down by the drop shot, and now he's going to activate his DR1 to act as a distraction. In theory, that DR1 is going to go out through the door instead of getting glitched on the cover there, but it still did its job. It caused all the enemies to stop moving and just shoot at him, and we only had a couple of enemies make it out the door. So that's it, guys. That's how we get through lethal engagements with this class setup. I hope you found this guide helpful. Good luck, and until next time, take care, and bye-bye. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. You can also check us out on Twitch at Hammer Bros Gaming. I am Blades of God, and until next time, have a great day everyone.